Minion in! Guys, making these videos is very time consuming. I love doing them, but the drawback is that I level slower than most of you. My channel is still very small, and I don't have an editor on the payroll. As such, I don't get to cover as much high level content as I would like. Well, I finally took a crack at Gideon, so now I can start cranking out the stuff you've been asking me to do. I couldn't be more excited. So to start things off, here's how I beat Gideon. I used a Crusader, so the tactics might be a little biased, and I would love to see some comments with tips from other classes, but I did my best to use tactics in a way that should be useful to melee and ranged alike. So like, subscribe, and settle in, because this is gonna get messy.
Wink.
Gideon. He killed your adoptive family and is trying to end the world. It's time for some payback. A lot is riding on this. Essentially, Gideon is a massive progression check. You can beat him with a gear score warning, and many have, so level and gear score are not what is being checked for here. The Gideon fight's primary function is to make sure that you, the player, have a good grasp on your character and are able to use your class well. This fight is all about recognizing telegraphs, managing your stamina, and dodging to avoid damage. You'll also need a few choice items, which I will tell you about later, so don't stop the video early or you'll miss important stuff. First off, and do not skip this step, trust me, you're going to want to practice. Don't waste potions or buff items until you know Gideon's moves. Bring a few lunch boxes and set aside some time. There is no doubt in my mind that the first time you encounter Gideon, he will kill you. In the words of the description in my dating profile, it won't last long, it won't be pretty, and you'll want to forget it ever happened. Don't use resurrect scrolls or star seeds. I don't care what you heard, they are an absolute waste here. If you prepare correctly, you won't die when it counts anyway, but while practicing, you don't need full health. Rezzing at a soul pyre respawns you at the edge of Gideon's aggro range with 20% health and no res sickness. Dust yourself off and have another go. This is just about learning his moves and practicing. The objective here is to get him down to 95% or less despite your 20% health handicap. If you can do that, you're ready for phase 2. Now let's talk about Gideon's moves. Attacking Gideon has to come in small spurts. Avoid trying to complete long combos, as those will put you at too great a risk. Instead, use hit and run tactics. This fight is not about overpowering your enemy, it's about staying alive and wearing him down. Manage your stamina. Walk to avoid his attacks and only dodge if that is the only way to get away in time. Avoid running as best as you can to save stamina for those emergency dodges. When it comes down to it, Gideon has 3 basic attacks. Learning to recognize them and knowing how to respond are the key to winning. For simplicity, let's give his 3 basic attacks names so we can refer to them. Attack 1, the Wave. Gideon raises his left arm over his face, then does a half turn to his left while waving his staff and dropping 5 orbs of red light in an arc in front of him. The orbs move along the ground away from Gideon and then explode upward in the order in which they were dropped. Because of the movement involved in his attack, it leaves Gideon with a very exploitable blind spot behind him and to his left, where no orbs are dropped. Stand in that area and do your worst. If he does this move while you're too far away to walk or roll dodge into the blind spot, your best bet is to move against the grain. Your instinct may be to avoid the attack by going right. Ignore that instinct and go left. The orb to your left will explode first, giving you an opening to close the gap to Gideon and do some damage before that wave is finished. Attack 2, the Blast. When Gideon draws a large red circle rune in the air in front of him, watch out, he will shoot a narrow beam directly in front of him. It hurts like hell and has ridiculous range, so if you see it coming, sidestep quickly. In addition to the straight beam, Gideon will shoot a row of explosions out to either side of him in an arc curving either forward or backward, depending on your position relative to him. The safest place to be when you see that circle rune is directly behind Gideon. If you're melee, stay at the edge of your attack range. Standing too close when the explosion arcs outward will get you hit. Attack 3, the AoE. You'll know when this is coming because Gideon will raise his arm, scream, and release his staff to float in the air in front of him. The attack takes about 2 seconds to charge, so you'll have time to react accordingly. Depending on where you are when the AoE finishes charging, the attack will take one of 3 forms. If you are at medium range when the AoE triggers, he will drop exploding orbs all around him that then move outward in an arc while exploding repeatedly, much like the Wave, only bigger. If you're standing directly next to Gideon, the AoE will manifest in the same way, only in reverse, with the explosions starting at the outer end of their arc and moving in towards the center, so don't assume you're safe close to Gideon, you're absolutely not. Keep a safe distance all the same, as the explosions are very tall and leaping over them to close the gap will still get you hit. If you're at a high distance from Gideon, the AoE takes the form of a single very wide explosion that will keep detonating repeatedly while it very quickly moves in an arc to either Gideon's left or right towards you. The size of the arc adjusts to your position, so if you stand still, this will hit and it will hurt. If you're melee, this is the perfect chance to use a leaping skill and close the gap. Either way, you'll want to leap or dodge away quickly before the explosion finishes its arc and reaches you. One thing Gideon does more than anything is teleport randomly around the room, making it easy to lose sight of him. The best method I've found for tracking Gideon, and I can't overstress this, is wear headphones. Bless Unleashed uses 3D sound, and unless you have surround sound, headphones are the only way to instantly find Gideon again after a teleport. You'll hear him appear and know which direction to turn. By default, Gideon teleports to a new location after every attack. However, moving in close to him decreases the likelihood of this happening, so if you want him to hold still, get into melee range. You should also be aware that Gideon launches an attack immediately after each teleport, so even if you don't know where he went, dodge and hope for the best. If you're low on potions, avoiding damage is easy as long as you track Gideon's location and keep a safe distance, so you always have the option to play it safe and back away until your potion cooldowns are ready. When Gideon hits 80% health, and again at 60%, he will charge a special attack that will stun you before he begins charging something extra nasty. You'll have a few seconds to complete a quick time event and get the hell out of the way before it fires. Don't worry, you got this. When Gideon reaches 50% health, the fight is over. He'll wrap himself in an impenetrable shield and summon pillars of fire all over the place. You'll be prompted to exit the arena. A common mistake is to run to the edge and look for the unicorn with which you would normally be able to leave. Don't. There is no unicorn. At this stage, the exit is a large glowing blue tear in space not far from Gideon. Use it, and congratulations, you did it. Some pre-fight tips. This is a fight you definitely want to prep for. You should have a minimum of 20 potions of recovery. Back in the olden days, when we used to have to walk uphill in the snow barefoot to fight Gideon, the Herbati traders sold potions of regeneration, and those were a must for this fight. But in the 2020 spring update, those were removed, and Gideon's health was reduced by 12%. So you're probably fine without them? The reason regen potions are so great is because they do not share the same cooldown with other healing potions, and you can alternate them in a pinch. I still recommend having a handful on you for emergencies, only now you'll have to make your own or get them from the market. You will want to eat some buff food at the soul pyre that raises your attack. I recommend cheeseburger. Don't forget to bring an elixir to raise your attack as well. As a crusader, my obvious choice was Elixir of Blades. Don't worry about buffing your defense. Know Gideon's mechanics and alternate potion types, and you'll stay alive just fine. What you really need is damage buffs, or this fight will go on forever. Last but not least, get yourself a panacea of blades. Now you're ready to start kicking in some bad guy teeth. Comment me any questions you may have about this fight, and if you'd like to support me, you can do so by leaving a like and sharing this video with your guildmates. Speaking of which, I owe a large debt of gratitude to my own guildies in the Azure Dawn for helping me prepare for my first Gideon fight. Now go be freaking heroes. Minion out.